everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you guys watching this episode. A couple of housekeeping things that I'm going to cover, and then we're going to dive right into the episode. So this episode features our meetup game at Georgetown Poker Club. Again, Georgetown is running a round-by-round PLO 4-card and a round-by-round 5-card PLO high-low, also known as Congress, every Friday at 5 o'clock. You can sign up on their pre-made sign-up list at Poker Atlas. Go ahead and feel free to do that if you're in the Georgetown, Austin, Round Rock area and you're looking for a good PLO Big O mix. That's every Friday. Coming up, we do have a meetup game coming up April 1st in Chicago. It's Chicago Charity Group, not Rockford Charity Group. So we're picking a different charity group this time. We kind of like to spread the wealth around a little bit. That's going to be at the American Legion at Downers Grove in Illinois on April 1st. And then we're also going to have a meetup game on April 2nd. That is yet to be determined, the location. So in the meantime, this coming up Saturday, if you guys are in the Fox River area near Green Bay or in the Upper Peninsula and you guys are interested in doing a round-by-round game, we're going to have a round-by-round Hold'em PLO game this coming up Saturday. Message me down below, message me on Instagram, message me on Facebook, and I'll get you in contact. It's going to be our first time doing it. We are going to be recording it. Eventually, we're going to try to record it to see if we can do some kind of like Pot Limit Omaha out loud situation. I've already talked with Berkey that he should be doing something like that for Pot Limit Omaha for the series. The biggest thing he said is that it's just really hard to coordinate with a bunch of PLO professionals to do that, to ask them for 6 to 8 hours of time during the series, which I can certainly respect and appreciate. So, but in the meantime, yeah, definitely check out some of our merchandise. We have the 10 Commandments of Pot Limit Omaha. We also have When in Doubt, Potted Out shirts. We also have PLO hoodies, cabbie hats, and then of course we have card protectors as well. So I appreciate anybody who checks that out or orders any of the shirts, things like that. If you have any issues with that, definitely get a hold of me. I'd be more than happy to help you out with that. So that's about that. Last part of housekeeping, as you guys know, and let me tell you, I did my first rehearsal yesterday. Yours truly and my wife are going to be doing the Black Panther in a contemporary ballet style. Now, let me tell you, yesterday we spent about 2 hours practicing it. Today, we're going to spend probably an hour to 2 hours every day rehearsing this and practicing this. I never thought in my life I'd be so excited to do ballet. Just a little bit of background information on myself. I do have a lot of dancing experience. I've taken dance lessons, ballroom dancing, waltz, Irish American tap dance, classical, hip hop, things like that. I can pretty much cut a rug on a dance floor. But I've never done ballet, so now that I've practiced it, it was so funny. The dance instructor was saying to the wife and I yesterday, she goes, you know, in 7 years of doing this fundraiser, I've never once ran into where the man had more experience dancing than the ladies. And it could show. My wife is quick on picking things up, and she's doing well. But yeah, definitely check us out. I'm going to put the QR code up here, right over here, I believe. So that way you can scan it on your phone. It's for a charity organization called Dancing with Our Stars, which is local celebrities in the area raising money for UP Home Health and Hospice. And I have a personal connection with hospice, as my father-in-law had hospice care before he passed. And as always, play smart, run like a god.
a look at the very first hand of this episode at our meetup game at Georgetown Poker Club. Now, there's a straddle for $10. I'm on the button. I end up raising it to $30. Now, a lot of my vlogs, I don't cover pre-flop action because Parliament Omaha, let's face it, is primarily a post-action game. However, in this case, I'm going to cover it because a couple of different things happen. When I make it 30, we end up having somebody who 3-bets to $100, and they're out of the straddle position. We get one caller, and then we end up having another caller. So right now, there's $300 in the pot plus my $30. At this particular junction, I can do one of two things. I can call, which is obviously a very likely scenario because it's only another $70 and there's already $330 in the pot, or I can 4-bet. Now, Ace King 3-8 is not a bad 4-betting hand. The problem that you run into is it doesn't work very well going 4 ways to the flop. So if I do elect to 4-bet with this hand, it's unlikely that I'm going to be ahead if everybody ends up calling. So the best situation in this scenario is just a flat call. So I elect a flat call for 100 because now we're going to see a flop with all this equity that we have. I mean, we do have 2 suits, we have a nut suit, and we have position, so we get last act. Now, the flop ends up bringing us something pretty decent. Deuce 5-6 with 2 clubs. So we have the nut club draw. So we are drawing to the nuts no matter what. And we do have a gut shot straight draw. So what ends up happening is all 3 players elect checking it to me. So when they check it to me and I'm on the button, I have a couple different options with this. I can, A, completely bomb the pot, just bet $400 with position. Somebody should put me on 3-4, especially since I have a 3 in my hand and I'm blocking 3-4. Or I could bet for value, something like half pot or a third pot, which lets people know, hey, I have some of this flop. I don't have all of this flop, but it is something I'm willing to continue with even if you decide to check raise. Now, keep in mind, the original 3-better who made it $100 ended up checking. This should not hit his range whatsoever. So I'm not really concerned about the original 3-better. What I'm more concerned with is about the 2 stragglers that we brought along with us. So I end up betting 175. Part of the reason why I make that bet is because even if I did a full pot size bet, if somebody does have something like 7-8-9, 4-7-8-9, things of that nature, a set of 6s, they're still going to call no matter what. So I end up betting 175. We end up getting 1 caller. Second person is going in the tank, thinking about it for a little bit. They're going to eventually elect to fold. But $175 is not a small amount of money. I mean, it's a decent amount. But we end up getting 2 callers in this board. So we're going 3 ways to the turn. Something I'm perfectly, comfortable with. Oh my, the turn comes the 9 of diamond. Now keep in mind, the original 3-better who made it $100 is out of the hand entirely. So the person who's left is one of the stragglers, and he elects a full pot size bet, $825. My opponent to my right, who's in seat 2, thinks about it for just a little bit, and he's going to end up folding. Now, $825 is quite a substantial bet into 2 players. So even though I have an 8 and I'm blocking 7-8, I really doubt my opponent, has anything but 7-8. They at least have 7-8 with something else in their hand. And they're doing a full pot size bet. So in a scenario like this, I show them, I was drawn to the nuts. No, I'm not getting the right odds. No, I'm not going to make that call. And he's going to win this one. Good job for him. Next couple of hands that I'm going to go over with is how you can maximize or unmaximize the most amount of equity when you flop absolute monsters. Now, here's a hand that we look down at, 8, 9, 10 queen with a suited queen. Now, I know my hands are blocking it. That happens from time to time when recording, but I looked at my notes. So I like to raise to $40. Again, go figure. We're on the button. I make it 40. We get 2 callers, pardon me. So we're going 3 ways to the flop. Oh, wow. Talk about hitting a home run out of the park. 8, 10, jack. Not only did I flop the nuts, I have a nut redraw with 8, 10. So this is a scenario when you're on the button and you absolutely flop gin with a gin redraw. How do you approach these hands? How do I make the most amount of money as I possibly can with these type of hands, Professor? Well, watch and find out. In a situation like this, when you have the stone cold nuts and you have a redraw, because keep in mind, any 10 or 8 gives us a full house in the event that somebody else has 9 queen, you really want to maximize the amount of money you have when you have these type of hands. So the next couple of hands are going to go over scenarios that happened when this happens. And these all happen in the exact same session. So there's only $125 in the pot. One scenario that you can take is just bet pretty much pot. So I bet $100. The reason why is because tens and jacks or nines and tens on a board happen to be incredibly draw heavy. Anytime the board is 9-10X or 10-Jack-X, the board is so heavy that your opponents are likely to call. So I bet $100 and I get 2 callers. So now we have a $425 pot, and the turn comes a 7. Now the reason why I pause it here for a second is because even though it does put a heart draw out there, when somebody else could be sharing a similar high to you, for example, Jack 9XX, it's imperative that you put the most amount of pressure on them if you have any type of redraws. So, for example, we still have the stone cold nuts with 9 queen, and we still have a redraw with 10-8. The other thing is if somebody else has like Jack Jack 9 or 7-7-9 or even Jack 10-9, they're likely to call a full pot size bet. And the reason why is because they have the second nuts and they still have 2 pairs. So when it checks around to me, I elect to bet full pot size $425. First player folds instantly. Second player goes in the tank a little bit. And again, I'm trying to charge maximum for any type of draws or people who think they might be chopping with us. And everybody ends up electing to fold. And we scoop a little bit of a pot, but sometimes that's going to happen. Now let's take a look at another hand in which we flop gin. We have ace 5, 10 jack double suited, ace high spades, and 10 jack of hearts. Now this is a hand that is an amazing hand for 3-betting. We have 3 to Broadway. We do have 2 to a wheel, even though we would prefer the 5 to be a queen or a king. So one individual ends up making it 15 pre-flop. We're on the button with the suited ace and 3 to Broadway. We end up 3-betting to $50. Now, I had a comment the other day that said, a lot of your pre-flop actions, Professor, are not good for novice players. It's a good way for them to burn up their bankroll. I can agree with that statement. So if you are on the more conservative side and you want to call with this hand, that's perfectly fine. I will not berate you or harass you whatsoever. But we go 3 ways to the flop. And the flop comes 8-4 jack, all spades. Again, this is a scenario where you're like, Professor, I flopped gin. How do I make the most amount of money in this situation? Well, keep in mind, unlike the last hand that we just saw where the board was a little draw heavy with a 10 and a jack, and it was pretty much a monochrome board, this board is not very draw heavy. Pretty much anybody that flops the nuts is going to stay having the nuts. Not only that, but I have a jack blocker, so I have top set blocker. So if I bet in this situation, a lot of times people are going to fold. Here's something that you guys aren't going to see me do very often. I check on the flop. Say, what, Professor? You check the flop with the stone cold nuts after you 3-bet pre? Yes, keep in mind, this video specifically is how to maximize the most amount of money you can when you end up flopping the nuts. So I check, the original raiser who made it 15 elects to bet $75, and I elect just a flat call. Say, what, Professor? You decided not just to check the nuts on the flop. You also, when the turn didn't change anything and somebody else bet a little bit for value, half pot, you just decided to flat call? Yes, I did, George in the back. Thank you very much for observing that. And why do we flat call here? Again, because whatever flops the nuts is most likely to continue and stay the nuts. I have top set blockers, so when my opponent bets $75, really, what is he betting with? He's not betting it with the set of jacks. I mean, there is a small chance that he is betting it with the set of jacks. There's one combination of jacks left. He's probably not betting it with like jacks and eights, but he's probably betting some kind of flush. So I know if I raise him here, it might blow him out of the pot. So I just call. So with the river changing absolutely nothing, I'm debating how I can maximize and get a call out of this individual, thinking that he's probably got like a 10 high flush or something. So I bet 110. He snap calls me. I show him the nuts. He actually ended up having king high spades. Had I known he had king high spades, I think I would have bombed the river. So I ended up missing out on about $200 worth of value. I think as quickly as he snap called me, had I bet full pot, he might have called thinking I could just have a dry ace. So I ended up missing some value here. So let's take a look at this hand here. Again, we are 3-betting on the button to $50. We have ace, ace, king 4 with a suited ace 4 of spades. So we definitely have a nut draw somewhere in this hand, and we just 3-bet it to 50 on the button. Now, we don't mind everybody calling. We don't mind somebody even 4-betting with ace king in our hand with the suited ace. This is a hand that I don't mind playing max pressure, but we go 4 ways to the flop, and the flop is actually going to come out pretty much our gin. We flop the stone cold nut. 5 of spades, 7 of spades, 8 of spades, and we have the nut flush draw. So again, here we are on the button. I'm curious, how many of you think that we should be betting pot here, half pot size bet, or if we should just be checking back for deception? Go ahead and leave the comments below what you think we should do in a situation like this. So let's see what happens with the action. So the first player elects to check, checks all the way to me, and I'm like, you know what? Let's go ahead and go to the turn. Say what, Professor? You just decided, not in just one of your videos, but in 2 of your videos on your vlog, check the stone cold nuts while you're on the button into multi-way action. Yes, that is correct, Kyle, over there in the back. And we do this for deception. It's not necessarily pot control. It's more along the lines of I want to see if I can drag a worse flush to call, because when you're bringing in a worse flush, you're not really worried about anything. Now, when you're bringing top set or middle set or bottom set, then you have a few things to worry about. So when I check for deception on the flop, 10 of spades comes on the turn, does not change a single thing. Now, Sammy is right here in the 9 seat. She decides to bet $80. Again, Sammy is another professional player that I've played with quite a few times. So when she bets $80, I'm sitting here on the button next to Act thinking, what's the most amount of money I can extract from an experienced PLO player? We've got a couple different options. I could smooth call, which I'm definitely not going to do, especially against a good PLO player, because then they're going to think I'm set heavy or something to that effect. And if the board pairs and they have like a queen high or a king high flush, then I'm not going to get any money out of them. So in this situation, I need to raise them, but I don't exactly want to raise pot. I just want to give Sammy the incorrect odds to call, but still give her like the idea that I might call if she decides to catch up. So I decide to raise it up to $300. So it's an extra $220 to Sammy to try to win $500. Now, some of you might say, Professor, this is not a big enough raise. Sammy can still call with a set. Well, actually, if you take her odds, if she does have a set here, she is making an improper call. Say, for example, she turned a set of 10. She only has 10 outs and is only getting there 20% of the time. On the flip side, if she's got a king-high flush draw, she's drawing stone cold dead. Now, when the river comes a red 5 and pairs the board, I really don't like this card. The one thing that does make sense for Sammy to have here is possibly a set of 10s. 5, 7, 8 checks all the way around. She has pocket 10s. 10 comes on the turn. She bets 80 for value, and then when I pop it up, she could be thinking, well, I could see a set of 8s or a set of 7s doing this, just trying to bluff me off the hand. So when a 5 comes, now if she does have a set of 10s here, she needs to be betting something, and she does. She did a full pot size bet. So when she does a full pot size bet, it's either a stone cold bluff or 10s full. So in a situation like this, this is just a bad situation for me to be in. Yeah, we flopped the nuts, but at the same time, my hand can no longer be good. If she did bluff me with a king high flush, she deserves the pot. Here you go.
Oh my goodness. On my $160 straddle, you're potting it?
Hey, if I had anything, I would have. Well, I didn't straddle myself, so I had the option.
540. Oh, no, sorry, 640.
So I decided to do this one a little bit differently. I'm going to give you guys the original audio, and I'm going to give you the audio of my voiceover. So we're going to do this as best as we can. Now, with all everything being disclosed, I want you to know, after I've watched this clip a couple of times and continuously laughed, I decided to do this in the most fashionable way I think I could possibly do as the PLO professor, and got absolutely blitzed before doing these voiceovers. So with that in mind, we have a $160 straddle going on. Somehow I got talked into a $160 straddle, and Wayne Donkfish Poker just went all in for $640.
320, it doesn't really give myself an option.
I honestly hope I have a decent calling hand. I know. I'm the same way.
Once I went for 320, I could have folded it.
I hope I have a hand that can
I'm
call.
not going to do it. Like, there's
I
not enough chips at the
honestly
table
hope
for
I
me
have
to-
a hand I can raise.
I gotta get this on video.
I'm shoving for no reason.
Whatever, win or lose.
I haven't even looked yet.
$160 straddle.
Oh my god! This is great! Oh man, just give me like Ace 10 Jack 4 5. I'll take it.
Might be a short.
Oh my goodness.
That's one less.
Well,
Hey,
let
can we run
me
it
see if I
twice?
can.
So, as you can see during the clip we're listening, I was a little enjoying myself that evening as well. But if you're ever curious what lighting $160 on fire looks like, it looks like Deuce 7-9 Queen King on a $160 straddle. As my good friend Sean would say, kids, don't do drugs. Looking down at this hand right here, Deuce 7-9 Queen King, double suited. And we have one of the tightest players that I've ever played with, all in for $640, and then a person behind him re-raising to $1,100. We have to look at, even though we have $5,000 effective, we can probably get about $4,000 of that in if we really wanted to. But on a hand like this is what $160 looks like. Light it on fire.
Be like, we'll be here all, I'm gone. You all can eat breakfast together with his hands over.
Guys, I just folded. I just folded.
Don't worry, my last card is a good card though.
Guys, that's why I
I
did
swear I
do
only saw
320.
4 cards.
1125
I
is the big
Actions over here.
Yeah, 1125.
Rob, you're right.
If I'm looking at 320.
Here, let's sweat it with you for the vlog.
So these are the 4 cards. These are 4 cards. 4 cards I thought I saw.
So everybody, this is actually Danny Chu, who happens to be another professional poker player. He went all in, only looking at 4 cards, thinking that this was just PLO 4. It wasn't until after he announced he was all in did he realize he had a 5th card. Again, this is one of those situations where my good friend Sean would say, don't do drugs, kids. Now, at our meetup game, things get bonkers, things get wild. The one nice thing about our meetup games is there is literally no tight players at the table. Even Wayne is all in. He only looked at 3 cards, by the way, before he decided to go all in. And why not? I mean, it's our meetup game, $1,100 pre-flop. We're going to sweat what everybody has here.
Okay.
And then this is the one I peeled.
Okay, yeah, no way.
Yeah, I know. For sure, but it's just,
What's the bet?
1125. I was looking for different cards.
1125.
Why did I straddle for 160?
Hey, you started.
You know this. I tell you what. Good luck, Wayne.
I'm gonna pull
Good,
640.
I'm out of the hand, and
640 for the.
this is what happens when you come to our meetup games and we're both stuck. Oh, we got.
Not to go for a 10 stack.
Yeah,
That's very reasonable.
that's reasonable.
If I skip this, I'll take a shot.
All right, it's on
I
camera.
just take the L.
But I'm
Oh my god. Wait, like
So now you're ready for me.
scoop or?
I do like my logic though. If I straddle there, maybe it's but the shot.
Yeah.
Hey, do you know?
And but you're getting cold and you're.
Oh wow, he's
No.
bribing him. Oh, remember there's still action, guys. There's still a little bit of action.
That might be worse.
There's still
No,
action.
everybody's like, no, there isn't a no. Yeah.
Like,
6.
I'm dead. I'm lucky.
I'm rooting for it.
I mean, your hand's not.
Or David.
yeah, there's still action left.
I mean, I'm not gonna show anything, but.
I got this. Man, we all in
Oh my God, what is this? 3, 4, 5, 9 jack with 4 spades for $1,125, and this man still has money behind. Like, when you look at this, you just have to go, how did I miss this meetup game? Yeah, there's still action. Now let's see who ends up winning this pot. 3, 4, 5, 9 jack. Afterwards, people are like, would you have called with that hand? And I'm like, I can't discuss the action.
Okay, all right, I like it. All right.
Is that trash can?
Huh?
Is that trash can?
I mean, I can't say anything because you guys still have chips. I folded and
standards are we talking about?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what I had anymore.
10% bonus.
We're going to speed part of this up here because the dealer's trying to figure out what the pot is before the flop. And let me tell you, the dealers here did an amazing job. So the flop comes out 8-8 deuce. It goes check, check. It checks around. And the turn comes out of 6. That means our boy Danny has the nut low. but there's still action to be had. It goes check, check again. And let's see what the river brings us. The river brings us an ace. Now, 3, 4, 5, 9 Jack decides to rip it all in for like $1,100. Keep in mind, all he has is Jack high for a high. But the other player ends up folding, and we end up seeing all the hands now.
I summoned the card I didn't want.
34.
Ace queen then.
Ace queen's got over here.
I'm
It's a chop over here.
pretty damn positive I king jack 8-6.
I got the high on the main pot.
34 is going to take the low, ace, queen up for the high.
I had like 3, 4, 7, 9 king. I was
I had
like,
king jack 8-6-3.
I was
It was critical. No, I didn't have 8.
What, eight?
Obviously, I didn't have an 8.
I literally only looked at these 3 cards.
Now, how amazing is the game that Wayne here is admitting that he only looked at ace, deuce, 8 and decided to rip it all in for $600. Good job, Wayne. You can tell I'm rubbing off on him a little bit, at least at the meetup games. But as always, everybody, play smart and run like a god.
Did not have an 8.
So, yeah, we had a meetup game at Georgetown Poker Club today. It was a little bit different than yesterday. Yesterday we had No Limit Hold'em and then a round of PLO. Today we had a round of PLO and a round of Big O. And how would you describe the action?
It started out kind of slow, and then we had about 5 or 6 players at each table, and then we eventually got down to 9-handed, so we were able to combine the tables, and it was pretty bonkers. I mean, we had a couple hands of $160 straddle.
Yeah, I started it off where I was pressured into it, I suppose, to do a $160 straddle. And when the guy raised, and the next thing you know, it was like $1,100 pre-flop. And I looked down and I had like 4, 5, 7, 9 king with like 3 spades. I was like, oh, wow, this is a great way to light $160 on fire. But even Wayne here, what was your biggest straddle? Was it 40 or 80? Because I knew that we did a lot of $80 straddles tonight.
I got on the 80 action, but 40, which was definitely my biggest
40
straddle.
was really common. So we were playing a very interesting 1, 2, 10, 20, 40 game. When we got down to one table, the game just went crazy. But overall, I think that was great.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's cool to help out these smaller clubs, as we were talking about. So
Texas has been good so far. So there was $30,000 on the table on a 1-2-5 round by round game. Absolutely crazy. I was in for $5,000. I lost 2 huge pots that were both over $2,500, where I was actually ahead on both of them. I didn't catch either one on camera because I was already stuck at that point trying to just focus. And then when I got unstuck, I didn't have much stuff on camera there. But again, in for $5,000 at Georgetown Poker Club for round by round. We're going to be doing it again tomorrow night, and we ended up cashing out $5,600. So overall, we're up $300 on the day because we had a $300 loss earlier. Play smart, everybody. Run like a god.